to begin?
Yes.
Okay. All right, let me just state a few formalities,
Okay.
just for the record. Take the time. Okay. So today is September 26, 2015. My name is Katherine Bynum. I'm from Texas Christian University, and I'm working here with the City of Fort Worth's Latino Americans 500 Years of History. And today we're here with Miss Lanette Martinez. Thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate your time and your participation in this project.
Thank you.
So let me go ahead and get started by asking you when and where you were born.
I was born here in Fort Worth, Texas, in April of 1970.
Okay. And who are your parents?
My parents are Larry and Olga Martinez.
And what did they do for a living?
My father, he was a foreman, but he also was a musician, and he actually, they named him the godfather of Tejano music here in Fort Worth.
No way.
And my mother, she was just a unit secretary, plus mom at a local hospital that they now knocked down, St. Joseph's Hospital.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay. And so you said your father was also the father of Tejano music here?
Yes.
What did he play?
The guitar.
The guitar?
Yes.
And was he part of a band? Or?
He was part of many bands, several bands.
Okay.
He started many. He was one of them. I wasn't even born yet. In the 60s, the Lancers. He also formed another band, Los Dantes. He played with several bands, and then at the end, like the last maybe 20 years or 25, 30 years, he started his own band, Los Cuatro Amigos. And he also played, though he was in his last, I guess, 10 years too, was also requested to play at rosaries or wakes. So people would go all over and played in the church choir.
So he was very well known in the community.
Very well known. Very well known in the community.
And on the form it says Southside Community. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And so you were raised in the South Side.
Actually, I was raised in the South Side. However, when I was 2, my parents moved into the Hallmark area.
Okay.
And back then it was mainly at Anglo.
Okay.
An Anglo. And my parents, my dad was a very hard worker plus a musician. And we got a lot of, people would say, oh, you wanted to be with the Joneses, and why did you move out of the barrio? You think you're better than us? But my parents just wanted a better life, wanted something better for their children and somewhere else to grow up. And people thought that we, wanted to be, but my dad worked sometimes 3 jobs. I can remember my dad working sometimes 3 jobs plus being a musician. And there were times we ate frijoles and rice. We weren't eating steak and everything like, with the Joneses.
Right.
And so, but he wanted us to do better. He wanted us to see that we could do better for ourselves and have a life.
And you said that you moved out of the neighborhood when you were about 2?
About 2, and we moved back, but my parents still had a home. So back then too, I guess like the blocks would be like all family members. So I can remember a time when it was just it was Stewart Drive. I can remember all our tias and cousins all lived on the same street, and everybody was friends, good family friends. And even he just passed away in May, and I see that they all bought funeral plots all at the same time at the same cemetery, and they're all still on the same block or right around each other. So it's very interesting. And they had a home, and then I was a teenage mom, so my sister and I moved back. They kept the house, and so we got to learn more, with our family.
And it was all in that one block.
All on that one.
So when you moved back after you became a mom, it was still in that same block?
That same block.
That's so funny.
Yeah, and even, even the streets, all the same streets, as people still know, oh, you're so-and-so, cousins and friends, and, it was a tight-knit community. And I've often heard, I wasn't old enough, but I guess in the early 70s, my fiance, he said he remembers everybody would be outside playing, but then they could smell all the tortillas in the neighborhood. All the moms making tortillas, so they knew it was all getting close to dinner time. So when they would hear that whistle or come on in, they knew.
So I bet having all of your family friends and your relatives living on one block, was it hard to kind of get into trouble as a kid? Because Was it like the telephone game where everyone would know what you did before you got home?
Yes, it was. Yes.
So
Yeah.
it was really hard to act up, I imagine.
Very.
Yeah.
Very.
Yeah. And then you said that you moved into the Hallmark area
Yes.
of Fort Worth. If I were looking at a map, where is that located?
The Hallmark area is now 35 South exit, and the exit is Alta Mesa.
Okay.
Before they changed it to Alta Mesa, before they made Alta Mesa go all the way through, it used to be Highland Terrace.
Okay.
The Highland Terrace exit.
Okay. And can you kind of describe what that neighborhood looked like?
That neighborhood was all brick homes. It was, and there was a couple of blocks. It was a new subdivision, just a new, where they had the homes custom built. So my dad got to pick out his home, his home that he wanted to be built. And we, were raised in all mainly Anglo-American and in a brick homes, central heat and air, central heat and air. So that's kind of how I grew up. And there were two Hispanic, when I went to St. Mary's, and then once they took me out of St. Mary's to put me into school there, E-Ray, it was mainly Anglo and a few, African Americans and couple other Hispanics, but there were not that many of us.
You could, in that neighborhood?
Yes.
Did you, when you started going to school, did you ever feel any kind of tensions between the groups? Or?
No, never really any tensions. Sometimes I would get that, that you're wet back or something. And
did they call you racial slurs?
Yeah, some days. And I was a tomboy, so my dad always told me to stand up. And I would get in my fight, not in school though. He'd tell me, don't fight in school. Just wait for them down the street. And there were boys, so I was that tomboy that don't mess with me. So
and these were white kids that were calling you?
Yeah, white kids. And then after I took care of them, we were friends. I was a cool kid. Yeah, I let them know. I had to stand my ground.
Yeah.
So.
What about with teachers? Was there any kind of tension there?
I think you could feel sometimes. I always felt sometimes that, I was Hispanic and coming out too, also from a Catholic school of mainly Hispanics. I, sometimes felt that tension, like and being with nuns, and it was different. It really was. Now that I think about it, I never really thought about it until you asked me now. But I kind of always had to work a little bit harder.
And so these were white nuns that were your teachers? Or?
When I was in St. Mary's, there were Hispanic nuns, and one of my most memorable ones, her name was Sister Adelaide. She was even my daughter's teacher when she went to Catholic school. So.
What made her so wonderful?
She was loving. She was just loving and loved the kids and just loved. Never met a stranger. It's just like one of those persons that would just give you a hug right off the bat, meeting you, and just was so loving and caring. She loved us all like we were all her own children. So.
Well, I forgot to ask. I know that we talked a little bit about your dad, and you mentioned that he was a foreman. Where was he a foreman?
He worked for many years at Texas Bronze. Texas Bronze was a company in Mansfield.
Okay.
And I guess it was a steel mill, or not really a steel mill, but we're a foundry. In a foundry there, and he worked there for many, many years. And I mean, it was even on my birth certificate that he worked there. And I guess the factory shut down, and then he was laid off, and then went to W. Pat Crow. Okay. Worked at W. Pat Crow. From there, they closed that factory down, and then he went to Champion Parts and Rebuilders that was here off the freeway. It's no longer there, and he retired from there. He retired from there, and then when he was retired, he worked for Standard Utilities, which was a part of Texas Electric back then. So he always worked. My dad always worked. And
sometimes 2 or 3 jobs.
Yes, I can remember little factories where he would go and work, and then get ready sometimes on Fridays and go play or go work and then go play. So he was always real busy.
Do you know if he was ever a part of a union?
I don't remember. I want to say because he was actually, I know unions were a big thing because he was actually raised in a small town in Ohio called Lorain, Ohio, right out of Cleveland, Ohio, because of the steel mills there.
Oh, wow.
So I remember him talking to my uncles all the time about the union, but I don't really remember.
Okay. So there's probably some kind of connection there. And
Yes.
he was raised in Ohio.
Yeah, he was raised in Ohio.
How did that happen?
Well, he was born here in Malakoff, Texas,
Okay.
a small mountain, and back then it was coal miners. Coal mining was
Okay.
in. Well, from there, he said my grandfather moved to West Virginia. They worked all in the coal mines there. From there, they found jobs in Ohio with the steel mills. So my grandfather got a job up there, and it was easy for them, and it's easy for my grandmother as well, because all along too, my father always worked. My dad was driving at 9. They were picking fruit, picking vegetables. He tells me a time when he was up there in Ohio, somewhere near Pennsylvania, where they picked apples too, worked on the orchards. So that's how they got the job. It was convenient for my grandfather to work in the steel mill. And so all, there was a clan of them that, one cousin, one brother, and they ended up setting up shop there and, their home and raising their family. And I have other cousins and family members that live there in Ohio. Yes, because of the steel mills. And then I guess when my dad went, after he enlisted in the Army, and he went back, he came here and he was stationed at Fort Hood. Okay. So that's how
how he came back here. And then so where was your mom from?
My mom is from Dallas. My mom is from Dallas, and they actually knew each other. They were neighbors in Malakoff, and the little place where I guess all the coal mining, they had a duplex, and he was 8 years older than my mom, and so he would pick on my mom all the time, and they would play, but they lived next door to each other. So I guess when he was on leave from the Army, they met at the Longhorn Ballroom. And back then, she had to have chaperones, and it was chaperones, and he was in his fatigues or whatever, and he met my mother from there.
Wow. And do you know when they got married?
They got married in May. They've been married 60 years. They were married 60 years, May the 14th.
This year?
This year.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm terrible at math. So 60 years ago was...
In 1955, 56. Yeah,
55.
Yeah, 55.
Wow, okay. And then you came along 15 years later.
Yeah, well, I have an older sister.
Okay.
Her name is Elsa. And then they went back to Ohio. My mother had my brother, Larry, Beebe. And then they came back, and then my mom had my other sister, Valerie. And they waited. Well, they were separated, and my dad had a gig. This is the story, but my dad had a gig. They had to play in Houston. He asked my mom if she wanted to go. She said, sure, I'll go. Well, then I guess a few weeks later, she found out she was pregnant. So I always say, I held the glue together, and I always say I kept the family together.
So there's 4 kids total?
4 kids total.
Okay.
Yes.
And you are the youngest?
I am the youngest.
Yes. Okay. And then can you tell me a little bit about, I guess, what your mom did for a living? You said unit secretary earlier, but where did she work specifically?
She worked for St. Joseph's Hospital. She worked on the psych units. Okay. She worked on the psych unit. She worked on, I remember, the 11th floor. So she was their secretary. She worked nights too. So she worked nights, and she handled, from feeding them or answering the phones, writing charts, doing the charts, helping entering the charts, however they did that. And that's what she did.
So you remember her being away from home a lot?
Yes.
Yeah, even at night?
At night especially, yes.
So how would that work? I mean, was your father at home at those times when your mother would be able to work? Or who was able to watch you when you were a little kid?
My older sister.
Okay.
My older sister, she was able to watch me.
How many years in between?
9.
9 years?
9 years.
So, yeah.
And then I also had, my parents had compadres too, so they helped me. They helped my parents a lot with me, watch me, or tías, or just to watch me, especially in the evenings or something. If my parents or someone, I was always, and that's why they lived in the South Side too. So I was, still grew up in that barrio environment.
Right.
So.
Okay. So we talked a little bit about your schooling. Oh, actually, before we get to that, I wanted to ask more about your mother. You said she was from Dallas. Did either of your parents have formal educations?
My father, he went to high school. He went to Whittier High School in Ohio, in Lorain, Ohio. He broke a lot of records. Like, he was an athlete football, track, baseball. But because of financially and whatnot, he needed to do something, and I guess go to work. So he enlisted though. He's a Korean War veteran, so he enlisted. My mother, well, she got married at such a young age. She didn't get to finish school. She went to Catholic high school in Dallas, and she didn't get to finish school, but she went back. She went back and just got her GED from Casada. Yeah, and then she even took college classes. She even took some college classes, but education was very important. And a big deal for my dad, for my parents, is to have all his kids graduate high school. I mean, for him that was a big deal for us to have all graduated. And then his grandkids, when his grandkids, of course, graduated, it was a really, really big deal.
So all 4 children graduated from high school?
Yeah, we all graduated from Trimble Tech High School.
Okay. And what was that high school like?
That high school was all kinds of racists in there. And it was a good environment. We had, some of my best times are going to school there at Tech. And we're very, united, and they'll be celebrating 60 years, I guess, too, of being open to school. So still the alumni, we kind of get together, but that school was very united. So I feel, and we never had like racial tensions back then. I don't really.
You don't think so?
No, I don't really remember in our day. Everyone got along. Everyone got along.
Any name calling, like kind of what you mentioned earlier?
Not really.
No. That's surprising if they have so many different.
It is. Yeah. It is, and I think we just all got along and just kind of, helped each other out. I kind of remember my generation, like not having something ugly like that. I've seen, other schools that I've experienced, but not at Tech.
And what year did you graduate?
1988.
Sorry, I was just looking at your questionnaire. Great-grandparents from Mexico and Austria.
Yeah, my great-grandparents. I know that my dad's side, there were some, I guess, I always heard my grandmother say from Zacatecas, somewhere in Zacatecas, some type of Indian, some type of that Indian. But on my grandfather's side, they're from Austria. They were from Austria.
Do you know that story?
I don't. I just know that my grandfather came here, that my great-grandfather, when he came here, I know that our original last name wasn't Martinez. But that's probably one of the first names he heard, so he took that name. I guess he liked it, and I guess when they came over, maybe in Ellis Island or something, but that was not our original last name.
Interesting.
Yeah, and so that's how we got and I have some cousins too that are light, and my grandfather had blue eyes, and I have uncles with the blue eyes or the green eyes.
So did they speak German? Do you remember them speaking German, or
just Spanish?
Just Spanish?
All Spanish, yeah.
And they settled in Texas, or?
They came to Texas, I'm sure, because my grandmother was born in Milano, Texas, and my grandfather was born in Bridgeport, Texas. So yeah, and that's what I'm trying to do right now, is research my dad's side and my grandmother's side, because I don't know, on my mom's side, we know that Nájeras, they came from Spain, that our ancestors were on the ship, one of the ships. I know that. And
the early,
with Christopher Columbus, yes.
Ships, yeah.
And we know that because I have my uncle researched it. Wow. And they went way back, and so I kind of know, having the Spaniard. But then also I know that my grandfather I think my mom said that he was from San Luis Potosí, Mexico. So yeah. So, and then my grandmother, her mother, was straight up Mexican, Indian type, Yes.
Yeah.
So.
Very dark skin.
Very dark skin. They have the very dark skin. Yeah. And my grandfather, he comes with that European nose type, but dark with the green eyes. So.
Yeah. Very interesting. What an interesting background. Not every day you see that, grandparents come from Mexico and Austria. So
yeah.
That's very, very interesting.
And another thing, since even though that we're, third generation, we speak Spanish in my household. All my dad he made it a point that all of us speak Spanish.
Good, yeah.
And so we're not, because I know a lot of my generation, they don't speak Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
They do not speak Spanish, but my dad made us.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. How are you going to get around in this world?
My mother's the same way. She grew up in Irving, where she was really the only Latina in that community, and so she kind of forgot how to speak Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
And my grandparents have always regretted not making her speak in Spanish, because it's something that has stopped with my grandparents. My grandparents are the ones that speak Spanish anymore in my family. So.
And that's what my parents didn't want for me, since I was in that environment. So
Right.
even my children speak Spanish.
Good.
So.
Well, do you ever remember being punished for speaking Spanish in school?
No, but my parents were.
Really?
Yeah, my parents, they used to get in trouble. And one of the things, too, that my dad said growing up north, because he grew up with a lot of Polish, there was a lot of mixture of Europeans there, and Slovenians, and a lot of Europeans. But he said all of us spoke English in school. None of us had this, we all just spoke one language. They all got along. Even with the African Americans, blacks, they had friends. It's like one of his dancing partners was Tony, the one that wrote Beloved, Oprah's friend, and I can't remember.
Toni Morrison.
Toni Morrison. They were dancing partners. They used to do the jitterbug and with my uncle too. So they used to go meet back in the 40s, the 50s, early 50s or whatever, 40s, and they used to everyone used to get along.
Yeah.
So.
Good. So you graduated from Trimble Tech in 1988, and what did you decide to do after you graduated from high school?
Well, from there, I was a single mom, and I had a daughter.
Was your daughter?
Yeah, I had.
Excuse me. When was your daughter born?
1988,
Okay.
October of 1988.
Okay.
I had a daughter. I went to TCC for a little while and just worked little jobs. Just went back and forth to school, kind of just deciding, what I wanted to do. I worked for Hertz for a long time, Hertz rental cars at the airport for a long time. And then from there I worked for the Associates in Las Colinas, a credit card company. And I came back and I worked for FedEx for many years. And I decided that I didn't want to do that anymore. It was, working hard and something I wanted to fulfill my dream, or at least part of it where I could make a difference. And I went back to paralegal school. Went to paralegal school. I'm a certified paralegal now, and that's what I do. I work as a paralegal.
And you like that?
I love it. I love it. If I couldn't be an attorney, the only thing, I can't do is go to court, really, and there's some things, but.
I have a friend that's a paralegal, and she was trying to kind of explain what paralegals do, and can you explain it for the interview? Because it's been a while, so.
Well, we do everything.
Everything that lawyers should do?
Yeah, no, we make, like I always say, I make my boss look good. No, we do, we do the motions, we do court filings, we file everything through the court, we do we help do research. Sometimes we're the first part of, meeting with the clients too. We can meet with the clients, we're able to talk to the courts, or we arrange everything, keep the calendars, keep files, make sure that all the files are set up, and basically kind of just make sure that everything runs smoothly for them, that we have. I work for a criminal attorney, so I have to make sure that he has all the police reports, every report, any witnesses, and so that's what I just make sure that
So you really do make your boss look good, having all that stuff organized for him.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. And then I guess we'll kind of tail off and say, what do you feel like is the most pressing issue in the Latino or Hispanic community here in Fort Worth?
Honestly, I see all these, I see the black and the white issues and whatnot, and I always say, it's, for us, all these years, it's still I feel that it's a black and a white sometimes, and no gray in between. That's how I feel. That's how I really feel. You see, even on TV, the media, do we have really any Hispanic shows that portray a Hispanic family that works, or comedy without having the A accents and stuff like that, and that are educated, that are well educated. Yes, now we have stars, movie stars that portray different things, and here in our community, I mean, the Latinos, we do play a pivotal role. I believe so, in our children, and we have to show them good, positive things, and that we can accomplish many things and play many roles. I mean, I wish that our next mayor of Fort Worth would be a Latino. We have so many, black congressmen. We have, councilwomen that are African American and Anglos. But I want to see us more Latinos, because our population is growing. And I want to see more of us go to school and get the education, get an education. We can do it too. And a lot of times we were always the teenage moms or the teenage statistics. I don't want our generations or my children's generation to be that statistic, or my grandchildren to fall under that category of being just a statistic. It's like my son just broke, for one of the statistics, single mom. I kept him through private education, and he is at Texas A&M, first one to go to a major university in our family. I was very proud today when I saw the general of the Corps of Cadets. He's Hispanic, General Ramirez. I met him, and that's proud for us, even though, like I said, I'm a third generation. But I'm still proud to see all these Latinos in our community making a difference. But I just want us to be recognized more.
So who do you feel like, there's a particular leader of the Latino community here that, maybe one day could be mayor, man or woman, in Fort Worth?
Well, I know of one, he used to be Judge Valdez. He played a pivotal role as well in our community. There's also our state representative, Ramon, and there's so many upcoming. Even I was proud too last week when I saw that Judge Valdez's grandson is running for constable. He's young. He's a new face. He's the next.
He's running for constable here?
Yes. Oh. And I was proud to see that, hey, we have a young guy. It's always good to see that young blood for me. I say that young blood because he's the same age as my daughter. So you all are kids to me. So I never thought I would hear myself say that. I was like, I feel old now. The kids. But yeah, just, those are major. And one thing too, for us, third generation, second generation, to be united and know that we can do. I know there's so many issues with immigration and immigration reform and whatnot, and our parents, even though we don't fall under that category, but one day there was a time when our my great-grandparents came in and worked hard for their families.
Do you see a lot of the Latino community helping out the immigrant community as well? Is there a lot of cooperation in that regard?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. I do see. Yeah, I do, and especially with our state representative Ramon, he has really united the community.
Unite everyone.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So I wanted to talk a little bit about some of your community and social activities. Can you tell me a little bit about the Ballet Folklorico Azteca?
Yes, Ballet Folklorico Azteca is a dance group that was the first dance group, I believe, here in Fort Worth. It's headed by Carol Alvarado, and this year we celebrate our 40th anniversary. So it's kind of our 40th anniversary. I had my daughter, she was in it, and now I have my granddaughter that dances in it. And they're not only learning, and one of the reasons why, they can do ballet or whatever, but one of the reasons why is they learn the traditional dances, and it's a learning experience because not only are they dancing, but they're learning the regions of where the dances are from and what region. Like tonight, my granddaughter, she's 7. She'll be dancing with 2 dances, one from the northern region, from Norte, and then the other from the state of Veracruz.
Okay.
And she'll
So
be
on the Yucatan side.
yeah. So she'll be, but she's learning, and it's a learning experience, and it's a nonprofit organization. So we give our time. And these kids, it's something for us to see, and to make us proud. It makes me proud to see them and all the hard work and the dedication that the volunteers, because they don't get paid, the teachers don't get paid, and it's just an all volunteer basis.
Mm-hmm. And so your daughter and your granddaughter both danced?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then what is your role in it? Are you a teacher at all, or
I don't teach.
Volunteer?
I just volunteer. I make hair pieces. I'm there if they need eyelashes, eyeshadow. I'm the background. I'm like that stage mom, or or if there's fundraisers or whatever, I'm out there.
Yeah.
I'm out there to help, and that's one of the things that my dad instilled in us. You have to volunteer. Mm-hmm. You have to volunteer with your children. You have to participate. Mm-hmm. So
what was he volunteering in? What sort of community activities was he?
My dad was in he did the choir every Sunday. He was in a church choir every Sunday. He volunteered with they started a group, the Catholic Men's Group. Okay. They did that. Catholic schools, he volunteered for many years at Our Lady of Victory, being he was outside with his orange vest. We say his orange vest at the crosswalk or directing traffic. And he would volunteer here at our Mother of Mercy School. He actually received the Volunteer of the Year award for out of the dioceses at one year. He volunteered up until last year, until he was 82 years old at the school with the choir and just doing volunteer work.
And so is he still living?
No, we just lost my father May the 24th.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
Of this year?
Of this year.
Yeah. I'm very sorry to hear that.
Thank you. And that's why I wanted to.
Absolutely. Yeah. What a perfect opportunity. Yeah. Absolutely. And let me just go. Our Mother of Mercy PTO.
I'm the vice president again this year. I have my son was a student there, and I participated with him. I was in the mom, the room mom, the class mom for several years, and on the PTO, and just helped several organizations there raising money and scholarships. And this year I've rejoined the PTO, and I'm the vice president of the PTO, trying to raise money. It's one of the smallest schools that we hear Catholic schools are suffering in the enrollment, and so we're trying to raise money for the school, make awareness out. The children get one-on-one attention. I'm very pro-Catholic education. So I try to do as much as I can, and statistics show too that when a parent is involved or family members, your children do better.
So were you involved when your daughter was in school, and then later your son?
Not so much as with my daughter. My dad, my parents were more involved. My dad was the number one volunteer, we used to call him. I used to work nights, and I was young. I didn't really understand that importance too, still being a young mom, knowing that importance of being a volunteer and what volunteer meant. But my dad, he was at the school all the time, every day. So, of course, with my son, I was older and finally started getting involved with him, and it does make a difference, and they feel proud.
For sure. So. And then the Ladies Auxiliary of Peter Cleaver?
It's a church organization at Our Mother of Mercy. And they do a lot of volunteer work as well. They do a lot of volunteer work. I wasn't in it for the last couple. I didn't renew my membership these last few years after my parents fell ill. So, but they do so many great community things for the community, for the church. Have a scholarship. My son was actually awarded the scholarship this year. So they do very good things.
To go to A&M?
Yeah, one of the they gave him some money.
Very nice.
Yes.
Very nice.
So they helped him, awarded him with that scholarship, and they do a lot of many things in the community and for the church.
And then you were telling me right before we started the interview that you were was this the Aggie Moms Clubs of Tarrant County?
Aggie Moms Club, my first time. I have a freshman son, and I wanted, even though he's away, I still wanted to be a part of it. And being a part of that, I'm able to be a part of it here. While he's at school, I'm able to do things. And proud moment for me today was being able to see the corps. I didn't realize how large they were and how many groups that they had. And just hearing the school song. And what we did today for them is handed out water and snacks to them. We're grateful. And, I was very proud that the General Ramirez came and thanked us. And that was a proud moment for me, for him to come and say thank you to us. And he appreciated it. And so they do, the Aggie Moms Club, we raise money. We prepare care packages for them, or study final packages, and send them out to the kids. We also, they have several scholarships that they do award yearly. And there's just so many great things. Even with their rings, I've heard of stories where, someone couldn't afford a ring and they couldn't come up with it, and the Aggie moms bought the ring for that student. So that graduating student. So they do a lot of good things in the community. Another thing they're going to do in October is help with lunch at the Ronald McDonald House.
Okay. Yeah.
So just small things like that. Being a part of something in the community.
Well, I know that you brought some stuff with you. Is there something that you wanted to show on camera, or?
Sure. I would, these were pictures. I was, mainly, like I said, I came to,
Is this your dad? Right
yeah,
now?
that's my dad when he served in the Korean War.
This is from the Korean War?
Yes.
And then who are these two on the side?
That's my dad when he was.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's my dad.
Oh, my goodness. And then what about this little
That's
boy?
my son.
That's your son.
When he was at Our Mother
So
Mercy.
funny.
And I have some of these old pictures like that you can see from Southside.
Oh, wow.
Those are my sisters with my brother and my mom.
I love the hair.
Yeah, that big hair. The big
so
hair.
funny.
This is my dad in the Army with some of his buddies.
Very cool.
My dad and his compadres at Trinity Park on a Sunday afternoon, I guess.
Just hanging out.
Just hanging, look at the beer cans, look at the shades, and
I like how he has the mutton chop.
Yeah. Let's see.
So funny.
These are like my father, the
wow.
orchestra pictures.
So they would play in different venues here in Fort Worth?
Yeah.
Do you remember which venues particularly?
Like the Guys and Dolls.
Okay.
There was a venue, it's not there any longer, the Casino Ballroom by the lake, kind of like an Azle or Lake Worth. It's knocked down. One of their venues there. And just different quinceañeras, weddings.
Orchestra. I love their suits.
Yeah, see, they are all...
So his band both had Latino and Anglo members. Yeah.
Because he played whatever. And my dad would play any kind of music, too. He would be like at the blues bars playing music with them. And he didn't care.
Yeah.
He just, as long as he got to play. So he had a style all his own, too.
Funny. Oh, my goodness. Well, we're definitely going to have to send you over to the Fort Worth Library table, because we can scan these and we can put them into our digital archive, and that'll be all
Really?
set up. Yeah. So
That's
we'd love
great.
to get this down, because this is great stuff. So very cute.
And even at, he's older there. He's probably in his 80s.
Oh, he's the one holding the
Yeah.
guitar right here. Can you see that?
As he's playing with Elvis there. No, just... And this is when they awarded him. It was in November of 1998 with the Legend Band. I guess they awarded him Tejano musician. This is us. It was probably 1998 as well. My siblings. That's I just won, 60 years of marriage, and
It's quite a feat, yeah.
yeah. And we don't hear, that anymore of 60 years.
No, not so much.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything that you wanted to bring up that maybe I missed, that you wanted to talk about before we kind of...
Just, our kids, just to remember their heritage and where they came from, and don't be afraid to stand up, and don't be afraid to take charge or go to school and become something. And if you want change, we have to speak up too. We have a voice as well. We kind of always felt like, hey, we just kind of wanted to blend in, but we have to take charge now, being Latinos, and that our population is growing. And I think that's very important, and to respect ourselves and respect others, and don't lose sight of that. And let's teach your children, our grandchildren and their children, just to stand up and to get that education to make a difference in the community.
Well, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank
we really
you.
do appreciate it. So.
Thank you.